Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the channel. My name's John Campea, and this is sort of the John Campea Show. I mean, it's not really the John Campea Show. This is a very different version. As some of you may know, and some of you may not know, as you can tell, this is not the normal John Campea Show. I have given the entire staff the week off, the week between Christmas and New Year's. Give everybody some well-deserved rest and attention, but I thought we would still do some videos this week, especially since we've got all the year-end stuff that we got to cover. Yesterday, we talked about the worst films of 2022. Normally, every year you do the best films first, but I like to focus more on the stuff that I like, so I wanted to get the quote-unquote worst out of the way first. Today, we are talking about the best films of 2022. And you know what? You'll hear me say it a little bit later, but every year, you're kind of thinking, oh, this has been an okay year for film. And then you get to the end of the year, and you start to put together your quote-unquote best of list, and you realize, holy crap, there were a lot of really good movies this year, and it suddenly becomes a bit of a struggle to put these lists together. Now, tomorrow, for those of you who may not know, I'm going to let you know that tomorrow we are doing our most anticipated movies of 2023. So that'll be tomorrow. So yesterday and today we're talking about the year that was. Tomorrow we are going to be talking about the year ahead and the movies that we are most looking forward to in the year ahead. And I hope that you guys will come back and join me for that. And hello to everybody who's here joining me on this December 27th when everybody else is off. Thanks for joining me and not making me feel lonely. It's good to have you guys here. Now, hey, listen, before we get into the best films of 2022, I wanted to kind of bring this up. I'm a little late to the party, but yesterday I finally got around to watching Puss in Boots. What's it called again? Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I got around to seeing that yesterday. I went with Anne to go see it, and what an utter delight. What a complete delight this movie was. Now, you know me, I'm not a cat guy. Cats no bueno. Don't like cats at all. Cats are dumb. But I saw the trailer for Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and I remember thinking, well, this actually looks pretty funny. This looks like it could be pretty good. This looks like it could be pretty funny. So Anne and then, Taylor, my assistant, went to go see it, and he really liked it. Of course, he liked it. He's a huge Shrek universe kind of guy. But Anne and I decided to go see it last night. And I'll tell you what, right from the beginning of the movie, we were smiling and giggling. And there is, I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a line in the movie, a single line, that's set up throughout the movie, that when it comes out near the end of the movie, and I know this sounds weird to say about an animated movie, a Puss in Boots movie, but there is a line that is one of the most badass lines. Like, you know me, I like my grrr moments. You know what I mean? Like when Theoden says, and Gondor, and Rohan shall answer. It's like, grrr! Or in Best of the Best, when Dahan goes around, I offer myself as your new brother. It's like, grrr, right? These grrr moments. I really love these grrr moments in movies, these manly moments. There's a moment in Puss in Boots, and I know it sounds really weird to say it, but there is a moment, a line given in Puss in Boots that is just like chest thumping grrr moment. Like, it is a truly badass moment that belongs in like a Schwarzenegger or a Stallone film or a Jason Statham film or something like that. If you've seen the movie, you probably know the line I'm talking about, but it's like, yeah, I wanted to thump my chest and a last scene, the final scene of the movie, is just makes your heart smile. The last scene of the movie. And again, if you've seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about, but I highly recommend it. I mean, it wouldn't have made my top 10 list anyway, but it's a charming, delightful, fun, sometimes thought-provoking, adorable movie. And I highly recommend you guys go and check out. I know it sounds weird, but Puss in Boots, man. It's the real deal. Puss in Boots is the real deal. Go and watch this movie. I think you're going to have a good time. All right. Hoopsuni is saying, blink twice if Shrek is in it. I will tell you that Shrek is not in it. It's not a Shrek movie. That's no more of a spoiler than tell you that Luke Skywalker isn't in the movie. It's not a Shrek movie. This is a Puss in Boots movie. But man, it stands on its own. Man, it stands on its own. It's so good. Go and check it out. All right. With that down, guys, we're going to spend the rest of our day here talking about the best movies of 2023. And by the way, the super chats are open. So once we get through our lists of our best films of 2022, once we get through our list of our best films of 2022, we'll spend the rest of the morning here just taking your guys' live comments and questions. The super chats are now open. I will close them once I think they've gotten kind of full. So yeah, there's that. So with that down, I'll tell you right now, we do not have Chris Carr's list. For two reasons. One, these videos took a lot longer to edit than I thought. And two, Chris accidentally put one or two things in her list that are kind of disqualified and shouldn't be on the list. But don't worry, when the regular John Campea Show comes back on Monday, I'll have Chris reveal what her list was for the best of 2022. So for today, it's just my list and Rob's list. Now, yesterday, I started off with worst. So today, it's only fair that we let Rob start off with best. So here we go, guys. Buckle up. Let's get into it. We're starting with Robert Meyer Burnett's top 10 best films of 2022. Take it away, Rob.
I have to say that I found this year for film to be actually rather exciting. A lot of diverse films in terms of subject matter, in terms of everything from social satire to murder mysteries to science fiction to popcorn adventures and, of course, 36-year-old sequels in the case of Top Gun Maverick. But my number 10 top 10 movie of the year is Glass Onion. Rian Johnson returning to form with more of Benoit Blanc's coming back for a second time, totally different milieu, totally different cast of characters. This is a wonderful movie. And, what I really liked about this film is, it felt like I love the Agatha Christie movies that Kenneth Branagh has been remaking. I love those in the 70s. I loved large-scale cast of thousands or cast of tens of great actors coming together for these whodunits. My number 9 film is again, it falls into the love the ensemble cast, love the social satire of this, Triangle of Sadness. Here's a movie that I didn't quite know what I was going to think of it when I saw it. I like the director's previous work, movies like Force Majeure, which I really liked. Own it on Blu-ray. I know that surprises none of you. But this was a film that really delved into what does it mean to be privileged? What does it mean to be wealthy? Or how does having wealth not matter when the shit hits the fan? And this film I thought was funny, darkly hilarious, and I found it very surprising, and I didn't know it was going to go. My number 8 film is actually a remake of Akira Kurosawa's Akiru, and it is called Living. And like the original, it is about a man played by Bill Nye in a tour de force performance, a man who discovers he's going to die. He's going to die, and he has not really done much with his life. He's lived sort of a fairly buttoned up life. He's never really achieved anything extraordinary, and he decides that he's going to do something that is going to give his life meaning, that he's going to leave a legacy that hopefully will let people remember him or even know he was even there. And like Kurosawa's original, this is a wonderful movie. Bill Nye is incredible in the role, and it's very poignant, it's very moving, and it will certainly make you think and take stock in your own life. My number 7 film is Germany's entry into this year's Academy Awards. It is a new adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front. This is, if you've seen the original, it's a devastating film, but I have never seen anything like this. The harsh, horrible, cold brutality of World War I don't think has ever been shown as graphically and as disturbingly as it was shown in this film. There's things that the director added here that is not in the original novel. where you met some certain historical figures and understood where they fit into this conflict and why did this conflict go on for a lot longer than it should have. Millions more lives were lost that didn't have to be lost. This is an incredible film. It's one of the great war films I think I've ever seen. Not an easy watch, and it's on Netflix. How come this film did not get a theatrical release? I will not know. Number 6 is, again, an interesting film about the haves and the have-nots. This is a lyrical storybook science fiction film from Europe, and I couldn't tell you who directed it or who starred in it, but it's called Vesper, and it is a really interesting science fiction film. All the people that have everything they need live in these strange mushroom-like towers of privilege, and everyone else is left to scavenge amongst the dregs of whatever's left on an ecologically devastated planet. There's a little bit of Children of Men in here, but it's a movie I stumbled across that I didn't know anything about, and I just started watching it, and I was completely mesmerized by this film. For those of you who like dystopian science fiction with a slightly fairy tale bent, it's not like City of Lost Children, but it has that kind of a feel. It's definitely European science fiction at its finest. Look, I love dystopian sci-fi, and this is a wonderful movie. So number 6, Vesper. Find it. It's streaming. Watch it. You won't soon forget it. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. This is a wonderfully imaginative film, and obviously the joke that is that it is the best of the multiverse movies released this year. It is a much better, actually, it's a much better examination of the concept of the multiverse than Doctor Strange was. The performances are great. Michelle Yeoh is terrific, and Ke-Huy Quan, seeing him come back after decades to come back and deliver the performance that he delivers. John Campea was pointing out earlier today on the John Campea Show how he does some real heavy lifting in this film through his various iterations, and he delivers a terrific performance that actually kind of knocked me out. You know how long it's been, 35 years, 37 years since the Goonies and Temple of Doom, and to see him come back, and now he's getting cast in a lot of things, and there's even talk of Oscar buzz. This film, if you haven't seen it, it's a wonderful film, and it is so imaginative, and it's so beautifully directed by the Daniels. I was stunned by this movie. I really enjoyed it. My number 4 movie is Avatar: Way of Water. Now, there are many things that can be said about this film. It is an amalgamation of things that have threads that have gone through the work of James Cameron all the way back to Terminator, fear of technology, fear of losing our own humanity in the face of technology, destroying our own planet because we take it for granted. I mean, here's a man that builds his own submersible to go to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. I mean, this is a man who understands that the lifeblood of this planet begins with our oceans. And look, I love the world of Pandora. I love the way it is beautifully realized. There is a sense of awe and wonder and of technical proficiency that no one else besides James Cameron can bring you. And I found this film to be incredibly transportive. I couldn't believe it was 3.5 hours or 3 hours and 12 minutes long, however long it is. It seemed like it was 10 minutes. And there was nothing about this movie I did not find transportive. I loved it. I loved everything about this film. I love the 3D. I love the variable frame rate. I loved all of it. And once again, I thought it was a triumph for James Cameron. My number 3 film will come as no surprise to anybody who loves movies, Top Gun: Maverick. Again, I saw this movie at CinemaCon with the crew here. This film is a revelation. I don't know how this movie got made. I don't know how this movie is so good. I know it was talked about how Tom Cruise waited to tell the right story. Everything from the aerial photography, which everyone has talked about, it's absolutely insane. But this film, like Avatar, has a very simple classical structure. An over-the-hill hero comes back to show everybody he's not really over the hill. He is still necessary. He helps the young whippersnappers learn a thing or two, and in doing so, he himself is actually helped a little bit. I don't think I've ever had as much fun in a theater as I've had with this movie. And I've owned it on physical media as well. It's the greatest 4K disc I think that's ever been released. I must have watched it 6 or 7 times at home. I mean, I just put it on as comfort food. There's nothing about this movie I don't like. I even love the Lady Gaga song at the end. And it's got a P-51 Mustang, which was my favorite plane, World War II American aircraft. And this movie's like, it's aerial pornography, and I'm there for it. My number 2 movie is a Korean film, Decision to Leave. And it is a story of a police detective who is investigating the murder of a man whose wife may or may not be the murderer. And he gets involved with her on a very interesting, introspective odyssey that takes you places you might not think you'd be going. I was engrossed by this movie from beginning to end. I didn't know where it was going to go. This is a much more quiet film, and it requires, I will say, you have to pay attention. It's a long film, but it takes you on a journey very much worth going on, and I loved this movie. My number 1 movie of the year is Tar. It's Todd Field coming back after his last film, which was Little Children in 2006, that also knocked me out. But I was just mesmerized by Cate Blanchett's performance. I could not take my eyes off this obsessive composer whose life begins to spin out of control, and watching her, let's call it a fall from grace. I love this film. I love the fact that Todd Field came back. Now, I don't think this movie's for everybody, to be honest. It's not as fun as Top Gun Maverick or Avatar. But if you are predisposed to this and you like stories about obsessive artists who are too obsessive for their own good, and you want to watch a stunning performance, I would be willing to bet any amount of money that Cate Blanchett once again wins the Academy Award for Best Actress in this film. Tar, wonderful movie. I loved it. I just got it on 4K yesterday. I can't wait to watch it again. I love this movie.
And that is Rob's top 10 films of the year. I thought it was a really interesting list. Vesper is actually one. I was talking to Rob after we filmed. I had not watched Vesper. I mean, I heard of it, but didn't look all that interesting to me, to be honest. So Vesper was one I immediately had to put on my have to watch list because I didn't see that one myself. So question is for you guys. What did you think of that list? I thought it was a really good, solid list for Rob's top 10 films of the year. And yeah, drop down into the comments, talk amongst yourselves about what you thought about Rob's list. All right. With that down and said, it's now time to get on to my list of my top 10. Now, like I said a little bit earlier, there were so many that I decided to do a couple of honorable mentions. So you'll see that here in a second. By the way, I'm going to be shutting down the super chats here in just a moment because you guys have filled them up. So if you do have a super chat, you want to give me your top 10 films of the year, some of the things that you thought shouldn't have been on my list, should have been on Rob's list, whatever, go ahead and fire those in. You have a couple minutes to do that. So without any more further ado, I present to you my top 10 films of 2022. So whenever we come to the end of a year and we're putting together these top 10 lists, I'm reminded of just how good of a year it was for movies. Like, we often forget about it, and then we try to put these lists together, and then we're like, oh my God. And just to highlight that, I have actually got a little bit of an honorable mention list before we get into my top 10. And my honorable mention list, these films did not make my top 10. That's how good of a year it was. So one of the honorable mentions I want to mention is Elvis, Baz Luhrmann's brilliant film. Austin Butler should absolutely get an Academy Award nomination for this. Tom Hanks is fantastic in it too. It was a little long for me, but Elvis, one of my honorable mentions. And another film that's going to be on a lot of people's top 10s, maybe top 5, maybe top 1, is Tar. Cate Blanchett is absolutely brilliant in this film. It's riveting from start to finish. I enjoyed it a lot, but it didn't quite make my top 10, but definitely one of my honorable mentions. Another film that flew completely under my radar all year, like I didn't watch this until about a month ago, but it's Colin Farrell's After Yang, about a family with an android. I mean, we've sort of seen that before, but this was a different approach to it, a very human story, for lack of a better term with it. It was brilliant. I mean, honestly, Colin Farrell could get nominated, in my opinion, for Academy Awards for 3 different movies this year. Banshees of Inisherin, The Batman, and After Yang. It's really wonderful. Check it out if you haven't. One of the films that might surprise some people, made it onto my honorable mention list, is Ethan Hawke's The Black Phone. This little low-budget horror film, but to me, it was an incredible theatrical experience. Like, I loved watching it. I saw it back at CinemaCon. I was taken with it right away. I loved the characters. The dialogue was great. You honestly felt peril for the characters. Black Phone is one of my honorable mentions. And then my final honorable mention is Viola Davis's The Woman King. I mean, this was something that looked like it had a lot of promise, and it delivered on almost all of it. Lashana Lynch is also brilliant in the film. John Boyega's in there. It's a wonderful movie. If you haven't checked out Woman King yet, absolutely go and see it. All right, so my top 10. I'm starting at number 10 is The Menu. This was a little film that just snuck up on me. It stars the best actor in the world, in my opinion, without an Academy Award, Ralph Fiennes. Anya Taylor-Joy is absolutely fantastic in it. Nicholas Hoult is wonderful in it. The supporting cast is all great. It is not the movie you kind of expect. It has a fabulous ending to me, so The Menu for me is number 10. Coming in on my number 9 spot was the sequel to one of my favorite films of the last few years, which was Knives Out, and that's Glass Onion. I was holding my breath a little bit because I did love the first one so much. Could they follow it up with something that was as charming, as witty, but also really have a great mystery at the heart of it? And they delivered in spades. I cannot wait to watch more films with Detective Blanc. This is great, so number 9 is Glass Onion. At number 8 for me, this might be the surprise entry for some people in my top 10, and I don't expect us to see this on a lot of people's top 10s. But for me, it's the best animated film of the year, and it's a top 10 film of the year, Turning Red. This movie is filled with so much heart and charm and mythology and story and family dynamics. You love all the individual characters. I rewatched it recently, and it's not just a fun little Pixar film. This is a wonderful, wonderful movie. So for me, Turning Red takes the number 8 spot. At number 7, the second Colin Farrell film to be mentioned on my list here, The Banshees of Inisherin. Now, this movie was not what I was expecting because I kept hearing comedy. And it's not really a comedy. I mean, in many ways, it's a very, very dark comedy. But you're re-teaming up Colin Farrell with Brendan Gleeson. They are magic together. It's heart-wrenching and sad, but also darkly funny in many, many ways. Banshees of Inisherin may end up getting an Academy Award nomination for Best Picture. I think it should. It takes number 7. In the number 6 spot, and I knew the moment I saw this film it would end up in my top 10 of the year, Robert Eggers' new film, The Northman, with Alexander Skarsgård, Anya Taylor-Joy. Another Ethan Hawke film is in there as well. This movie is visceral. It's simple in its approach, but it's a great revenge kind of film, following a lifelong bloodlust looking for revenge. Nicole Kidman is fabulous in this. I fell in love with this movie the first time I saw it. I raced back to the theater to see it again the next day. The Northman is my number 6. All right, so now we get into my top 5. And in my number 5 spot, I never would have thought this at the beginning of the year before I saw the film, but it's Top Gun Maverick. You know, I always go on about how movies are experiential events. And Top Gun, you know, Tom Cruise knows how to deliver movie magic. And that's what you feel watching Top Gun Maverick. Is its story the most complex? No. Is its narrative worthy of a Screenwriting Academy Award? No. But the overall experience of watching this film was thrills and emotion and grabbing onto the edge of your seat. And I was just taken with it. It blew away every expectation I had for it. Top Gun Maverick, who knew? Makes my top 5. At number 4 for me is James Cameron's Avatar: The Way of Water. I just finally watched this film. It was a little late, but I just watched this film the other day. And I'll tell you what, I recently watched The Fabelmans. And as I was watching The Way of Water, I just thought back to the way little Steven Spielberg in The Fabelmans would look at the screen, and you could see this awe and wonder and the magic of the movies just sweeping over him. And I realized that's me right now watching Avatar: The Way of Water. James Cameron took the success of the first Avatar. I think he improved it in almost every way, not just visually, but narratively as well. I think this was a better story than the first Avatar was. I was just completely enraptured with this thing. It's a tremendous movie-going experience. Avatar: The Way of Water at number 4. In at number 3, and again, this was another one that as soon as I saw it, I knew it would be in my top 10 of the year. It's Matt Reeves' The Batman. It's easily the best comic book movie of the year. Like nothing else came even remotely close to it. But it is just legitimately should be considered one of the best movies overall of the year. From a technical aspect, the sound design, the costume, the atmosphere, the cinematography, everything about it is just absolutely top-notch filmmaking. But it takes us in an approach for The Dark Knight that we have never really seen before. Robert Pattinson delivers in spades. Obviously, Colin Farrell, this is the third time we're mentioning him on this video. Colin Farrell is the Penguin. I cannot wait to watch his HBO series. For those of you who didn't know, they're doing an HBO series on him. It was riveting, and Paul Dano delivers the best Batman villain we've had since Heath Ledger's Joker as the Riddler. He was absolutely incredibly insane in this thing. And so The Batman takes number 3. In my number 2 spot is the best multiverse movie of the year, and it's not called Doctor Strange. It's Everything Everywhere All at Once. Now, this was a movie that for me, actually, I'm kind of surprised it's not my number 1, because it has held the number 1 spot, my favorite movie of the year spot, all year, ever since I saw it, just until recently, and we'll get to that in a second. But I mean, Michelle Yeoh is a queen. I mean, she's an absolute queen. She can do it all. She can be in the great action. She knows how to deliver comedy. She's great dramatically. And this is a very difficult movie to try to explain. Try to explain Everything Everywhere All at Once to somebody in like 30 seconds or less. Very, very difficult chore to do. But they did. They made me feel the warmth and the joy of the family. I was laughing at all the dynamics there. Then when they get into the multiversal stuff, it was thought-provoking. There's some pretty deep philosophy in this stuff. Then it just goes with any multiverse movie. You got to get into a little bit of bonkersness. And there's absolutely bonkersness in this. Rakakuni is maybe one of my new favorite characters in all of movies. So Everything Everywhere All at Once didn't finish in my number 1 spot. It was there most of the year, but it's my number 2 favorite film of the year. And then that brings us to my number 1. And for the longest time, I did think it was going to be Everything All at Once until I saw The Fabelmans. This is a movie that, to me, is a great representation of why we make movies and why we watch movies. It's the simple story about a boy who grows up with a dream. And obviously it's semi-autobiographical by Steven Spielberg, looking at his younger life and how he grew up in his family and his mother. Paul Dano, there he is again. Paul Dano as, the father of the Fabelman family, absolutely riveting. Michelle Williams as the mother, absolutely riveting. It's just the simple way that Steven Spielberg can take a story and fill you with that awe and wonder through the eyes and through the lens of this boy growing up, first watching a train wreck on a movie screen and then building that into a career that would ultimately lead to the greatest storyteller of all time being Steven Spielberg. It was everything I thought it could be, everything I didn't think it could be, and more. To me, it's the best movie of the year, which makes it 2 years in a row that I think a Steven Spielberg film was the best of the year, because I thought West Side Story was the best film last year. And this year, I think it's The Fabelmans. So that is my top 10 list. And there you have it, guys. Those are mine and Rob's top 10 favorite films of the year. We had a couple of crossover films on our various lists. We had some films on our list that weren't on the other person's list. I didn't have Vesper. I didn't have Triangle of Sadness, although I did like it. He didn't have Fabelmans. He didn't have The Batman. I mean, so we have a very different, but a few films that crossed over there. We both had Top Gun and Avatar, both listed pretty high. Anyway, guys, what do you think about the lists? What's the verdict? What does your top 10 list look like? Were there any films that you think it's egregious that either Rob or I left off of our top 10 list? Whatever you guys think, comment down below and let us know. All right, guys. With that all down and said, let's now move on and just spend the rest of our day here today hearing from you guys and taking your live comments and questions. Now, I just shut down the super chats because they are all full up, but you guys got a lot of super chats in there. So let's get over and start addressing them, shall we? Okay, we're going to get things started off here with Min Tran. And Min Tran writes, top 10, Spirited. I really liked Spirited. 9, Slumberland. Didn't love Slumberland, be honest. Number 8, Top Gun Maverick. Number 7, Belle. Number 6, Wakanda Forever. Number 5, The Menu. Number 4, The Batman. Number 3, Miss Harris Goes to Paris. My wife loves that movie. Number 2, Glass Onion. Number 1, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. And if Chris Carr was here, her heart would be all aflutter because you know she absolutely loves that movie, man. Thanks a lot for sharing your list, man. I love your list. Well done. All right. Next up, Stephen Dylan Wouters writes, John, thank you so much for giving us all this content this week. Your shows and chatting with our movie-loving friends make every day better. Oh, well, thanks so much. Yeah, I didn't Like, I knew we were going to give everybody the week off, but I didn't want to go a whole week without any videos and content. And I thought this would be the perfect opportunity for us to talk about the best, the worst, and the most anticipated. Of course, once again, tomorrow we will cover our most anticipated list. So thank you for being here, man. And thank you for letting me do this and letting me into your homes in this late December. All right. Stefan Dylan Routers also writes, which movie surprised you the most this year? One you didn't think would be good, but liked it after watching it. For me, that would be Prey. Prey is right up there. Prey is definitely right up there. I had a bonkers good time with Prey. I personally think, and to some people this is a hot take, but I don't even think it's a question. Prey is easily, to me, without question, easily the second best of all the Predator movies. I mean, you still got to give the crown to the original Arnold movie, but I mean, I think out of all the various iterations of Predator stuff that has been out since, and there have been a couple of okay Predator things that have been out, but I think Prey was easily the second best, and that film entertained me way more than I possibly thought it would. All right. Next up, Stephen Little Rounders also writes, 1 of 4. Okay, here we go. When thinking about the best movies of the year, I often gravitate towards the best animated movies of that year. There's something about animation that keeps me coming back for them far more than live action movies. I can't really explain why, though. Maybe it's the inventiveness of a lot of them. Maybe it's the bright colors and often quirky characters. But when I feel down, I most often rewatch animated movies to brighten my day. And thus, more often than not, my favorite movie of the year ends up being an animated one. Case in point, this year's Pinocchio by Guillermo del Toro. There is a whimsy and a nostalgia. There's an emotional anchor about animated films. Not because they're just for kids, because they're clearly not. But I think when we sit, I'll just speak for myself here. When I sit down in front of an animated movie, there's also a part of me that is whisked back to the nostalgia of youth, right? So I watched a lot of cartoons as a kid, but also there's an advantage to animation. And the advantage of animation is it's literally whatever you can imagine, right? Like even with today's movie magic, there is stuff you just can't do or do well or do within budget in a live action movie. Some things would be just way too cost prohibitive, and there's still some things that are kind of impossible. But that's not true for animation. For animation, you can do anything, like anything at all. And there's something about that when you approach an animated film. Like, I don't know that you could do, at least not cost prohibitively, I don't know that you could do Turning Red live action. Again, without it being a $300 or $400 million movie, I don't know that you can do that live action. So there's a nostalgia, there's a whimsy, there's a connection to our youth, there's the complete unbridled imagination that storytellers can go into. There's a lot of advantages to it. So I totally feel you on that, man. I totally do. Well said. All right. Next up, Ethan Holgate writes, 1 of 3. Hey, John, what a great year this was for movies. My top 10 movies of 2022. Number 1, Avatar: The Way of Water. It was great. Number 2, The Batman. Number 3, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Number 4, Bullet Train. I really enjoyed Bullet Train. Number 5, Ambulance. It's funny because I just put Ambulance on my top 10 worst films of the year list, but I'm glad you liked it, man. Number 6, Glass Onion. Number 7, The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 8, The Menu. Number 9, The Fablemans. Number 10, The Black Phone. Your list is very similar to mine, with the big, obvious, glaring difference being Ambulance. And that's the beautiful thing about movies, right? Is that one of us can have a movie on our favorite films in the year list. One of us can have it on our worst films of the year list. And that's the beautiful thing about the art, is that the films and stories and art hits us all in different ways. And I think that's a plus, not a minus. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. And I'm glad you had it in your top 10. Great list, by the way. I loved it. All right. Next up, we have D-Train, who writes, I think a new category for the Oscar should be best performance by an animal in a movie. This year's winner is the donkey from Banshees of Inisherin. Well, here's the funny thing. Having used an animal in a movie, I did, for some of you may not know, I made a little rom-com about a bunch of years ago called The Anniversary. And without a lie, the most expensive actor in my movie, because everybody worked for union day rate thing. Like all the actors, even ones who have real careers, they all worked for like $100 a day, which was incredibly generous of them. But the most expensive actor in my movie was a dog, because my script called for a 3-legged dog, and we had to go to this agency that specialized in on-screen animals that they train, and they specifically had a 3-legged dog who was awesome, by the way. But yeah, I won't tell you how much I had to pay for it, but that dog was by far the most expensive actor in my movie. I know it sounds weird to say that, but by far the most expensive actor in my movie. By the way, Aaron Cummings was in that movie of mine. So yes, but yeah, no, obviously you can't do Academy Awards for that, because a lot of times they'll have 8 different animals playing the same animal role. Like a lot of times it's not even the same animal. So I don't think they can do that. All right. Next up, I love the Banshees reference though. Jared Vester writes, "The Batman was my favorite movie of the year. It was close for me. I mean, no, I thought The Fabelmans and Everything Everywhere All at Once were another level above Batman, but I clearly at number 3, I loved The Batman. Like I did think it was too long. I thought they easily could have shaved a good 15 minutes out of the movie, would have made it pop a little more and have a little bit better flow. But overall, like from a technical point of view, a creative point of view, I just freaking love that movie, Jared." D-Chain writes, "Favorite movies of the year. Number 10, Babylon. Number 9, The Menu. Number 8, Pearl, the X sequel. Number 7, The Black Phone. Number 6, I'm glad to see I'm not the only one giving The Black Phone some love here. I thought I might have been the only person to give The Black Phone some love. I loved that movie. Number 6, The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 5, Avatar, The Way of Water. Number 4, The Whale. Number 3, Nope. Number 2, The Batman. Number 1, Top Gun Maverick." Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of Nope. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good, but Jordan Peele for me has yet to get back to that top level potential that he showed with Get Out. I wasn't a big fan of Us, to be honest with you. There certainly had some really good things about it, but I wasn't a big fan of Us. I gotta admit to you, I was kind of underwhelmed with Nope. I was a little bit underwhelmed with it. But again, that's the beautiful thing about the art. For you, it's one of your favorite movies of the year. I think for a number of people, it's going to be on their top 10s of the year list. And that's great. All right. Let's see. Next up, we got Mr. 47 who writes, "My top 10 of 2022, The Batman, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Top Gun Maverick, Avatar, The Way of Water, The Northman, The Menu, Barbarian." You're going to see some people put black. For me, Barbarian, I was late to the game. You know what? If I had 10 honorable mentions, I only allowed 5 honorable mentions. If I had 10 honorable mentions, I probably would have had a Barbarian in one of my honorable mentions. Black Phone, more Black Phone, love Smile and Pray. Creative, diverse list there, Mr. 47. Well done. All right. Ethan Holgate writes, "Oh no, John, I sent in my top 10 list in backwards order." Oh, no problem. Sorry about that. I forgot to put Top Gun Maverick on my list, but but it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, listen, I watched the last 20 minutes of Top Gun Maverick again yesterday. Ann and I just popped it on the TV. Ray was over when we weren't home and he was watching it. So he paused it as he was leaving. And then we sat down, we saw it pause. So we just hit play and we watched like the final 20 minutes of it again. Listen, when you think about all the ways that Top Gun Maverick is weak, because it has some big weaknesses, right? What's this compelling narrative? Who is this big threat? We don't know. We're never going to say who the bad guy is. Huh. And why do you need to destroy this place? Not really sure. Okay. And why is there no civilization around? We don't really know. Okay. And so you're telling me that Rooster wears the same sunglasses, same mustache, same shirt, and when he sits down with his friends, he plays the same song on the piano that his dad, that Maverick's buddy did? Isn't that a little like really like horribly on the nose? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Like with all the things that Top Gun Maverick doesn't do great, you would kind of think it would have no business being as thrilling and entertaining. And again, Tom Cruise knows how to bring movie magic, man. Because I'm watching the last 20 minutes of this thing yesterday, and I've seen this movie many times, and I'm watching the last 20 minutes again, and I'm like hanging on the edge of my seat, like how they're able to generate that kind of magic is insane. And that's why I made my top five of the year list. All right. Jared Vester writes, I was looking at Margot Robbie's filmography in the last 7 years, and while she's had some major hits like I, Tonya, it looks like a lot of her movies are mixed bags or bad. Yeah, but see, that's the thing about actors. The actors don't write the movies, right? The actors don't write the movies. All the actor can do is give and deliver the best performance they can, and that's not going to make a bad movie a good movie. I mean, you'll get some things like The Whale that isn't a great overall movie, but there's a performance in it that everybody's talking about. But that performance isn't going to get The Whale a Best Picture nomination, right? It'll get everybody talking about Brendan Fraser, and rightfully so. But I mean, yeah, the same is true for a lot of actors. I mean, unless you're Daniel Day-Lewis, who only would do like one movie every 2 or 3 years, who is extremely selective and extremely picky about the movies and the filmmakers he would work with, most actors want to do 2 or 3 movies a year. Understandably so. It's their job. That's their career. They should be working that much. But you can't really hold that against the actor. All right. Mr. 47 writes, my bad for the spacing on the list. It was a top 10 list, not worse. FYI. Oh, no. I got it, Mr. 47. No problem. But the comma is our friend. Just use commas next time. Make it a little bit easier, but no problem, man. And that's very courteous of you to write that in. All right. Derek Large writes, I doubt it will get any nominations, but I thoroughly enjoyed The Northman. Seems like many of the best films came out earlier in the year. The Northman was a top 3 film of the year for me for a long time. There was something, I used the word visceral, and lots of movies try to create a feeling, a sense of visceral nature, but it is not easy to capture. And there's just something about The Northman and Skarsgård's performance that just nailed it. I thought the script was great. The set design, like the set design, the production design, I think that could get a nomination. Possibly that could get a nomination. I think costuming could get a nomination. It's not going to get a screenplay nomination. It's not going to get any Best Actor nominations. It's not going to get a Best Picture nomination. It's not going to get any of the major nominations, but I think it could very well qualify for some of the more technical awards. It's a beautifully made movie for a laughably low budgets, which is what Robert Eggers does. So I know you might hear its name mentioned a couple of times at the Oscars. We'll see. All right. Next up, Derek Larch also writes, I wonder if Oscar nominations could break an Oscar record this year of most money earned cumulatively for all nominees, with movies like Top Gun, Everything Everywhere, Avatar, Batman, etc. Maybe, yeah, because there are a number of high-profile movies that are in the running for a Best Picture nomination. And you mentioned 3. I mean, Everything Everywhere All at Once was not a huge hit. It was the biggest film ever for A24, but it wasn't a massive blockbuster. But Top Gun Maverick is going to get a nomination. Avatar: The Way of Water is going to get a nomination. Right there, you're at $2.53 billion of box office just there alone. I don't know that the Batman's going to get a nomination. And I think that sucks. I think the Batman absolutely deserves a nomination. I really do. I mean, I didn't think it was as good as, say, Logan, but I'll say it. I thought it was a better film than Joker. And Joker deserved a Best Picture nomination. I mean, it was a very, very, it's unfair to say it's apples and oranges because they're 2 very, very different movies. But I mean, I think Batman totally deserves a nomination, but I don't think it's going to get one. I hope I'm wrong. But I don't think it's going to get a nomination. All right. Derek Larch also writes, speaking of best of the year, have you finished God of War Ragnarok yet? Yes. It's a mastery of subverting expectations and the performances are so good. I loved the story of God of War. Now, I didn't play the game. I watched the 12-hour, 16-hour. I watched the 12 or 16-hour kind of, cutscene movie put together. And it was fantastic. My heart broke. What was the name of the dwarf again? The ending of that game, the whole third act, really, with the story of the dwarf. And I won't give away anything for those of you who haven't played the game yet or watched it or know the story. Brock. Oh my God. Like, and then what happens after the dwarf's tragedy, how the character of the dwarf changes. And right up until the very ending of the game, like you're, oh. And the performances are great. I actually, sometimes I found myself kind of cheering for Odin a little bit. I don't know. Like I wanted Odin and Kratos to I don't know, come to some common ground. I don't know, but it was brilliant. It was really, really well done. I loved it. All right. Next up, RDG124 writes, "Hey John, I know you and Ann love Vegas, but would you ever live and buy a house out there?" Yes, I would. I'm not saying we're going to, but property values are quite reasonable compared to Los Angeles. It's a good tax situation. Yeah, I would totally consider living in Vegas. The really nice thing too is that being such a major hub, like everywhere in the world flies to Vegas. So that means you can literally fly anywhere in the world from Vegas. It's actually easier for me to get home from Vegas. Like there's no flights that go to my hometown of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada from Los Angeles. I mean, I can fly to Toronto, which is only like an hour away from Hamilton, but there's no airline that flies to my city of Hamilton in Los Angeles, but there is in Vegas. I can fly direct to Hamilton from Vegas. That's very appealing to me. That makes it very, very appealing to me. So yes, I mean, it gets really hot there, but that's why we have pools and air conditioning, right? But listen, it gets really hot where I live in Corona as well. Like in Corona, Riverside, Burbank, this whole area, the Inland Empire, the valleys, it gets really, really hot. But yeah, it gets even hotter out there. But I've been in Palm Springs, so it is what it is. All right, next up, we've got D-Train writes, "Been a rough year for Robbie. I hope Barbie delivers." Has it been a rough year for Margot Robbie? She's made a lot of money. So yeah, maybe Amsterdam didn't turn out so good. Babylon is not going to make a lot of money at the box office. But guess what? She doesn't care. She got paid. She gets paid. What she gets paid is not dependent on how much the movie makes. So she's doing just fine. Don't worry about Margot. All right. Ben Rayner writes, "My top 5. Number 1, Prey. Nice. Number 2, Top Gun Maverick. Number 3, Spirited. Number 4, The Batman. Number 5, Chip 'n Dale's." Ah, yes, the Chip 'n Dale thing. I mean, yeah, again, if I had, instead of just 5 honorable mentions, if I had given 10 honorable mentions, Prey and Barbarian would have been in there. They didn't make my 5 honorable mentions, but if I had done 10, I think both Prey and Barbarian would have been in there because, again, Prey was a pleasant surprise, such a fun movie. The tension was great. It had a little bit of Northman in it in some ways, but yeah, I really, really liked Prey. All right, next up, we got Josh Becker writes, "My top 10 movies 2022. Number 10, Glass Onion. Number 9, Cha-Cha Real Smooth." I still never saw that. I never saw Cha-Cha Real Smooth. I've heard a number of people really rave about it. Number 8, Nope. Number 7, The Fabelmans. Number 6, Babylon. Number 5, Top Gun. Number 4, Everything Ever All at Once. Number 3, The Batman. Number 2, Avatar. And number 1, Banshees of Inisherin. That movie, listen, this is Colin Farrell's year. I mean, Colin Farrell, I said it in the video, I will say it again. Colin Farrell did 3 performances this year that were all wildly different from each other, that I honestly think you could consider him for Oscar nominations for all 3. After Yang, Banshees of Inisherin, which he will get an Academy Award nomination for. And I honestly think his portrayal as Cobblepot in The Batman, I legitimately feel you can make an argument that he could get, or he should get, a Best Supporting Actor nomination. No, I'm not saying it's absolute. Like, I don't think he's getting snubbed if he doesn't get it. But he was so good in that. Again, this is kind of the year of Colin Farrell in a lot of ways. Anyway, great year for him. All right, thanks a lot for that, Josh. Next up, Murray Reich sends in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, Murray. And Murray writes, Personal disappointing films of 2023 in no particular order. The 355, yeah, because with that cast, that movie should have been amazing. Morbius, I thought it was going to be good. It was awful. Fantastic Beasts, I kind of liked Fantastic Beasts 3. I'm not going to lie to you. I enjoyed that movie. I did. Jurassic World 3, Lightyear, yeah, especially after the first act, which was so good. The final two acts just kind of fall apart. Thor 4, yeah, after Ragnarok, which is one of the best comic book movies ever made. Thor, Love and Thunder was a big step down. Nope, I agree. I was really disappointed disappointed. I didn't think Nope was bad. It's just I had much higher expectations. Halloween Ends, Ambulance, Death on the Nile, god-awful film, The Munsters. Yeah. See, disappointing is different from worst, right? Disappointing is not the same as worst. Because you can be really disappointed in a good movie, because good or bad is just about, is it really good or is it really bad? Disappointing is the movies that have the biggest gap between how good you thought it would be and how good it ended up being. So you can have a movie that's good, a good movie. But if you go into it like kind of hoping and thinking you had the potential to be like one of the best films of the year, that could end up being even though you think it's a good movie, it could end up being for you kind of a disappointment. And like for me, that's a great example for Thor, Love and Thunder. Coming out of Thor Ragnarok, I just thought, which I think is a top 10, 11 or 12 best comic book movie ever made. The fact that it was such a step down, and I enjoyed Thor, Love and Thunder to a degree. I'd be lying to you. I'd be disingenuous with you and just saying what is the cool thing to say. Thor, Love and Thunder sucked. I mean, I could just say the cool thing, but I owe it to you to be honest with you and to be, transparent with you. I smiled and giggled a bunch through the film. It was the first MCU movie that made me actually buy into the relationship between Thor and Jane, because I've never liked the Thor and Jane relationship ever. This movie, actually, amongst all of its weaknesses, this movie made me care about the Thor and Jane relationship. I really liked the flashback stuff of their relationship. I did. I got a kick out of it. Some of the overall sense of humor of the film was way too silly, but there were still a lot of moments in it that still, honestly, if I'm going to be honest with you, made me smile and giggle. So it's a movie that I didn't think was trash, but it was still one of the more disappointing films of the year for me, because after Thor Ragnarok, I thought the movie could have been and would have been spectacular. And it wasn't. It was a major step down from Thor Ragnarok, and so that ended up being pretty disappointing for me. Anyway, thanks a lot for sharing that, Marie. And again, thank you for supporting us so much. Marie also writes in again. He writes, personal best films of 2022 in no particular order: The Batman, Doctor Strange 2. Listen, there are a lot of people who have a lot of love for Doctor Strange 2. I know, like, the noise is, oh, nobody liked Doctor Strange 2. Fact of the matter is, a lot of people like Doctor Strange 2. Bullet Train, I had a lot of fun with that. Emily the Criminal, The Menu, Glass Onion, Turning Red, Puss in Boots, The Outfit, The Black Phone, and Fablemans. I am so encouraged to see how much love The Black Phone is getting. I honestly thought I was going to be the only one having The Black Phone on my lists. It's so good to see so many other people having it on the list. Love your list, man. Well done. All right. Edward writes, number 10, Enola Holmes. Yeah, I didn't even watch Enola Holmes 2. I just didn't like, I wasn't all that thrilled with the first one, to be honest with you. So I didn't even watch. Let me know if I absolutely should go back and watch Enola Holmes 2. Understand that I didn't like the first one. So you tell me if you think I'll like the second one. Anyway, number 9, See How They Run. That's one I was pretty disappointed in. Again, I don't think it was bad, but the trailers made it look like it could be a top 10 film of the year for me. And I don't know, it was kind of flat for me. At any rate, number 8, Top Gun Maverick. Number 7, Turning Red. Number 6, Glass Onion. Number 5, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Number 4, The Batman. Number 3, All Quiet on the Western Front. Number 2, Banshees of Inisherin. Number 1, The Fablemans. I love to see how diverse these things are. But you see, you're recognizing here, Edward, that a lot of lists have some movies that are very, very similar on there. Let's see. South Texas Shark says, what are your funniest moments of the John Campea Show for 2022? I don't know. I'd have to sit down and think about it, because I can't even remember what was this year versus last year or whatever, but I don't know off the top of my head, unfortunately. South, it's a good question, South Texas, but I don't know off the top of my head. A. Marcellus writes, my favorite movies of this year were number 1, Top Gun, number 2, Bullet Train. Nice to see Bullet Train getting some love too. Number 3, The Batman. Number 4, Everything Everywhere. Number 5, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. That's another one. Okay, I'll get to that in a second. Number 6, Blacklist. The Blacklist. That's a TV show. Was there a movie called The Blacklist? Anyway, 7, The Gray Man. Oh, that was just, okay, just 7. That's fine. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. That's an interesting one. I saw it a little bit later than most people did. Not a lot later, but a little bit later than most people did. And the buzz coming out of that movie, the buzz for it was like, this is like the movie this year. This is going to blow. And while it definitely had moments, and I did enjoy the film, Ann and I went to go see it because I love Nicolas Cage. I honestly didn't think it was all that good. I mean, it was decent. It definitely had some good chuckle moments. The Paddington 2 stuff I loved because I think Paddington 2 is a massively underrated movie. And yeah, but again, I know a lot of people love that movie. A lot of people totally love it for me. Maybe I just heard too much hype for it because when I saw it, I was like, it was all right. It was all right. I think there have been better Nicolas Cage movies the last year or so, but it is what it is. All right. Other than that, man, I agree with a lot of your list too there. All right. Hoop Suni writes, my top 10, 10, Top Gun. Number 9, The Northman. Number 8, Bullet Train. Number 7, Western Front. Number 6, Glass Onion. Number 5, Decision to Leave. First one other than Rob to have it on their list. Well done. Number 4, Triangle of Sadness. Number 3, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Number 2, RRR. Number 1, Banshees of Inisherin. Haven't seen Avatar yet though. Yeah, man, RRR is I told the story on Open Mic the other day. I'm never going to go back and try to finish that one. I saw the first 15, 20 minutes of it, and it just wasn't for me. I didn't hate it. It just clearly wasn't for me. So I stopped watching it. And then just because I didn't bash the movie. I didn't say this movie's stupid. I didn't do any of that. I just said, guys, because everybody was waiting for me to watch it. And I sat down and watched it, and I told people, look, I watched the first chunk of it for 15, 20, maybe even 25 minutes. And it's just not for me. It's just not for me. So I'm instead of spending 3 more hours watching this, I'm going to go watch something else. Woo! The amount of anus rashed, puckered lipped jellyfish who were had their whole world destroyed because you'd think I walked into their house and slapped their mama because I said, yeah, it wasn't for me. I watched the first bit of it. It just wasn't for me. I'm going to go watch something else. Woo! The amount of ass burn on some people made me go, not only do you make me lose faith in humanity, but there have been a lot of times that I've watched a bit of a movie and said, this isn't for me. And I've gone off and watched something else. And then later would go back and try to finish it off at some point, right? I'm sure that's happened to you. It's happened to me too. I mean, it happens to all of us. But after seeing the frail little fuck babies come out of the woodwork, how can you dare not say, it's the greatest thing of all time? I'm like, well, now I'm never going to watch the rest of it. Fuck that movie. And that's unfair because it's not the movie's fault. But I'm like, yeah, fuck that movie. I'm never going to go. If that's the fan base for that movie, if this is how the fan base of that movie acts, I want nothing to do with that movie. I want nothing to do with that movie. And again, it's unfair because it's not the movie's fault. But I was just like, yeah, never going to finish that movie. I am never going to go back and finish watching that movie ever because of the loser assholes. Anyway, all right. But the important thing here, Hoop Suni, is that you liked it. That's the important thing. And if you liked it and you were entertained watching it, that's the most important thing. All right. Movie Lover 1989 writes, Hey guys, here's my top 5. Number 5, Smile. Number 4, Barbarian. Number 3, The Batman. Number 2, Everything Everywhere. Number 1 is Top Gun Maverick. Thanks, have a happy 2023, and bring on the filthy. Dude, listen, I still remember, it was 2 years ago. In a couple of months, it'll be 2 years ago that me and Aaron Cummings were in Las Vegas for CinemaCon, and they showed us the first 18 minutes of Top Gun Maverick. Right up to the point that after he ejects from the plane, he walks into this town all burned up and he goes into the diner and he asks the kid, "Where am I?" And the kid goes, "Earth," right? They showed us the entire first part of the movie all the way up to that part. And that was the first time that I was like, are you kidding me? Is this movie actually going to be awesome? Because I was very skeptical about Top Gun Maverick in the years leading up to it. I thought it's way too little too late. What can you possibly do a story around here on? All that kind of stuff, right? And then nearly 2 years ago, they showed us the first 18 minutes. And you guys remember, Aaron and I did the video on this. We were like, guys, this movie looks awesome. Like, I can't wait for you guys to see it. Like, and I didn't know if maybe the first 18 minutes were the best 18 minutes and everything else was going to be crap. And then a year ago, they showed us the full movie at the next CinemaCon. And they showed us the full movie and you saw us do our review of it. And I'm like, I can't believe how great this movie is. Like, this movie has no business being as good as it is or being as thrilling as it is. It was just absolutely crazy. It's hard to believe it's been almost 2 years since they showed us that reel, since they showed us the first 18 minutes of the film. And I still can't believe, I'll still never get over how floored I was by how good those first 18 minutes was. Anyway, let's keep going here. Thank you, movie lover. We move on to Suthius. And Suthius writes, rewatching Black Adam, I gotta say, I'm glad they didn't make Adam Smasher the typical trope of the young, brash, arrogant a-hole member of the team. He's a pure good guy and just a big goofball. I'll tell you what, I like Black Adam. I mean, it's got a lot of problems with it. Terrible dialogue, massive logic holes, all that kind of stuff. But I enjoyed that movie. And one of the reasons I enjoyed it was because I thought the entire Justice Society was pretty damn cool. And Adam Smasher was definitely one of them. One of my favorite lines, actually, in that movie, I think I mentioned this on the John Campea Show a while ago. One of my favorite lines in that movie is when Dr. Fate and Hawkman are talking, and Hawkman realizes that Dr. Fate saw that one of the Justice Society dies. And Hawkman goes, "It's Adam Smasher, isn't it? It's Adam Smasher." Like, I really liked the Justice Society, including Adam Smasher, and I can't remember her name, Whirlwind Girl, whatever. I really like it. And by the way, I hate romances in superhero movies, with very, very few exceptions. Druig and Makari in Eternals, Peter and Gwen in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, Tony and Pepper. But that's about it. I thought Whirlwind Windy Girl and Adam Smasher, that was wholesome, man. Like, I loved those two. I want them to get married and have babies. I thought that was charming. So yeah, a lot of big problems with Black Adam, but I thought the Justice Society was definitely one of the stronger points. All right. Maria Del Carmen Martinez writes, thank you for this week's shows. Oh no, thank you for being here. And thank you for allowing me the privilege of doing it. I appreciate that. All right. Ryan Lewis writes, hey John, saw Weird, the Al Yankovic movie, my favorite comedy of the year. And for someone who was not interested in it, I loved it. It was fun, weird, and a good time all in all the right ways. Listen, we did a best comedy. We did a topic this week on the John Campea Show of the best comedy of the year. Because the last couple of years has not been great for comedies, right? There's not a lot of really, truly great comedies. There are a couple, but I remember Rob and I both ended up saying Weird, the Al Yankovic Story. Now, obviously, you know I'm a little bit predisposed because I'm a big Weird Al Yankovic fan. But that aside, Rob is not a huge Weird Al Yankovic fan. And he was like, absolutely Weird is the best comedy of the year. If you guys have not seen Weird, the Al Yankovic Story, it's free to watch. So I highly, highly encourage you to go check it out because it's really damn funny. It's really, really good. All right. Glad you liked it, Ryan. Sin Vendetta writes, John, I just wanted to say thank you to you and the rest of the crew for continuing to keep this show awesome. Well, thank you, man. This year in particular has been very difficult, but you all have helped me get through this year, so thank you. Hey, listen, Sin Vendetta, and by the way, Sin Vendetta, thank you for supporting us on that level. That's a really generous super chat. Yeah, there's been a lot of listen, the last couple of years have been very, very challenging. And like, I remember coming into 2021, we were all looking forward to getting the pandemic put into our rearview mirror, but we all knew that we were still going to be feeling the effects of the pandemic in this year. And that alone has been very, very challenging. We've had some challenges here. Everybody's had some challenges. And that's one of the great things about the new year, right? It's nothing but potential. The new year faces us and it's nothing but potential. And we learn the lessons of the year that was to carry us into the year that is to come. And thank you for letting us be a part of the year that was. And we hope that you will continue to be with us in the year to come, because we got some pretty cool things planned. So thank you so much for being here, man. And thank you again for supporting us in that level, Sin Vendetta. I appreciate that, man. All right. Next up, we got, in my honest opinion reviews writes, I didn't want to do my top 10 until I saw Babylon to give it a fair shake. So glad I waited. An absolute fantastic film. This is the interesting thing. Every once in a while, every year, there seems to be that one or two movies. There's one or two of them every year where like people think this is an Oscar contender, one of the best films of the year. Absolutely brilliant. And then you got a lot of people who say this movie was terrible. This movie's not even worth watching. And that Babylon seems to be that movie for 2022. I really can't think. Can you guys in the live chat think of any other movie this year, 2022, that was like that, where it's like people either 100% absolute love it or 100% absolute hate it, and there's not a lot of middle ground? I'm looking to the live chat. Givi saying Amsterdam. I don't think so. The vast, vast, vast majority of people seem to hate Amsterdam, so I don't think that. Don't Worry, Darling. I don't know. Aiden is saying Don't Worry, Darling. A lot of people in the middle of that. Blonde is a good one. Blonde. Who mentioned Blonde? Leonardo mentioned Blonde. That's one. Ambulance. I never heard anybody say Ambulance was the best film of the year. I didn't hear a lot of people say Ambulance was the worst film of the year. So that one was more middling. Black Adam, again, I didn't hear anybody saying Black Adam was the best film of the year. But that's the thing about Babylon, right? There's some people who literally think it's one of the worst films of the year, and a lot of people who think it should be nominated for an Academy Award at the Oscars and might get an Academy Award at the Oscars. So it's like a really wide thing. Anyway, yeah, there's that. Okay. Let's keep going here. I'm just going to do one or two more, guys. Then we're going to take a little break because my cup runneth dry. I need to go refill my drink. All right. Next up here, we've got Remember Bulldog writes, either The Batman or Avatar: The Way of Water is my favorite movie of the year. You know me. To me, both of those films are in my top 5. Those are both worthy, entertaining, immersive, well-made movies that I think are great examples of what can happen when you have great filmmakers making great stories. I love both those films, man. All right. Kevin Cow writes, happy holidays, John. Thank you so much, Kevin, and to you as well. My top movie is Everything Everywhere All at Once. And also, go Chargers. LA have a playoff team. Go Boots. Yes, and it ain't the Rams. I went to go watch the Rams game the other day where they blew out the Denver Broncos. What a mess Denver is, huh? I mean, for those of you who aren't football fans, you won't care, but they fired their head coach, which had to happen, because they're not going to fire the quarterback, who they got a lot of money invested in, and what a bust. Russell Wilson has been an absolute bust. And I was like a lot of people. I thought it was a great signing, but man, that has worked out bad. But hey, we got the Chargers. LA has a team in the playoffs this year. All right, next up. Trevor sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Trevor, so much, man. And Trevor writes, thank you and your gang for all the great content year round, and I hope you have a happy new year. Well, thank you so much for that, Trevor. I really appreciate that. And again, listen, the regular John Campea shows return on Monday. Monday, we'll have the full crew back in, all that kind of stuff. Tomorrow, once again, I mentioned it earlier, but tomorrow we will be focusing on our most anticipated movies of 2023. So very much looking forward to doing that video tomorrow. And then I was planning on doing a show on Thursday, but I think with your permission, with your permission, King T'Chaka, with your permission, I think I'm going to take Thursday and Friday off, if you guys don't mind. My wife Ann is, I mean, my wife Ann is like the most supportive person in the world. She understands the work I do and all that kind of stuff. But every once in a while she goes, you have literally taken no time off over the Christmas holidays. Like not a day. You're even working on the weekends. What's going on? I was literally up editing on Christmas Eve. And so Ann is like, just tried to carve out a couple of days. So I'm like, all right, so if you guys are good, I think I'll take Thursday and Friday off. But yeah, the regular show returns on Monday. And again, we've got another show tomorrow. So thank you so much for that, Trevor. I appreciate the kind words, man. And thank you for supporting us on that level. All right, last one we'll do, and then we're going to take a quick 2 or 3 minute break here. Suthius writes, Unobtainium in Avatar, or Transformanium in Transformers Age of Extinction, or Eternium in Black Adam. Which do you think is the least creative and lame? I don't know, man. I'm going to go Unobtainium. And the reason I'm going to say Unobtainium is because, and I'm not going to give anything significant away for Avatar 2, for those of you who have not seen it, but in Avatar 1, Unobtainium was the MacGuffin, right? Unobtainium was the lost ark, the Ark of the Covenant. It was the Infinity Stones. It was the object that the whole story of the movie revolved around. That is what the humans were after. That is why they were on Pandora. It's the most important thing in the galaxy. Blah, 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 blah. In Avatar 2, it's not even mentioned. It's not even mentioned once. As a matter of fact, it's not just that they don't mention it, it's brushed away. Now there's a new MacGuffin. There's a new thing that everybody's after. And I won't go into what it is for those of you who haven't seen it. But that makes it the most lame thing. It was the absolute heart of everything in the first film. And then you get into the second film, not even mentioned once. Not even referenced. So that makes it the most lame thing there. All right, guys, we're going to pick back up here with Cash once we do when we get back here. But again, if you guys don't mind, we're going to take a quick second here. I'm going to go refill my drink, stretch my legs for just a second, rest up my throat for a moment or two, because I've been speaking nonstop for about an hour and 15 minutes. So you guys use this opportunity, use the bathroom, talk amongst yourselves, grab yourself something to eat. Don't go anywhere though, guys, because we will be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience there as I took a little break there to go and refill my drink. Hey, by the way, for all of you guys, I noticed in our live chat, we have a lot of our channel members. For those of you guys who are channel members, tomorrow afternoon, so again, we're going to do our most anticipated show tomorrow. And then later in that afternoon, we are going to have a members town hall meeting, our final one of the year. I think it's going to be like around 2:00 or something like that, Pacific Standard Time. I'll let you know the exact time tomorrow. But again, for those of you who are channel members, we're going to have our channel members town hall meeting tomorrow. So last one of the year, we'll talk about, some of the stuff that we've done this year. We're going to talk about some of the things we have upcoming in the new year, give you guys an advanced look at some of the stuff that we're doing. And I'll just take your guys' questions about the channel and all the stuff that we're doing. Again, and that is exclusively for our channel members, so make sure you guys come and join us for that. Okay, let's get back here to the questions, shall we? And we're going to pick things up here with Cash, who writes, Nope is my number one. Seeing it in IMAX was wild. I was excited for it. Again, it kind of underwhelmed for me, but the important thing is, Cash, is that you had a great time at it, and I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. I still look forward to all the stuff that Jordan Peele's going to do. ENS writes, I saw a lot this year, but the only movie I saw 3 times so far is Avatar 2, so I guess that's my best, right? I mean, you can, if you want to, you're not really sure. I heard somebody once say, I think my dad said this, but my dad's not the one who made this up. A lot of people have said it, but I remember once my dad said, if you want to know what's important to you, sit down and look at the stuff you spend most of your time on. If you want to know what's important to you, if you can't figure out what's like high important to you, what's high on your priority list as a person, just sit down and count up what you spend your time on. That's what's important to you. And I think that can be applied a little bit to the movies you watch. It's like, I don't know what my favorite movie is. Didn't you say there's a movie you watched 35 times? Oh yeah, I guess that's my favorite movie. Now that's not a rule. Like maybe there's a movie that's just super rewatchable. It's not necessarily your favorite, but it's super, but again, a good general rule of thumb. If you want to try to figure out what's actually important to you, figure out what the things are you're spending your time on. That's the stuff that's important to you. All right. Next up, Parker Thwips writes, I was one of the animators on Puss in Boots. Is that true? Or is this just an internet guy saying something? I was one of the animators on Puss in Boots. So glad you enjoyed it. Very proud of the movie. Well, if that is true, Parker, and in today's age, you always got to be skeptical. But if that's true, then congratulations to you, because truly I was very entertained by that movie. It was absolutely delightful. And Ann and I are already talking about going back to watch it again. So congrats to you, man, if that is true. Well done to you and all the people who worked on it. All right. Stevie Loves Horror sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, man, for supporting us on that level, Stevie. And Stevie writes, I just started my channel about 6 weeks ago. I do horror movie reviews. I have about 75 subscribers. That's a great start right now. What tips would you give me for 2023 and for staying consistent when I don't feel like filming and uploading a video? Well, I would say, first of all, let me do this. I'm going to bring up a YouTube channel here, I'm going to bring up, let's see. Let me try this again. John Campea getting started. Okay, so there are 2 videos up, okay? If you go on YouTube and just search for John Campea getting started, just search for John Campea getting started, all right? The top 2 videos, one I did 8 years ago, right? This one here called Getting Started in Online Film Talk, that was 8 years ago, but the principles of it are still the same. That's a 2-hour video there. And then I did one on more recently, like last year, called How to YouTube with John Campea. That one is over 3 hours long. Go and check those out. But I would say this, as far as when you're not able to, when you're not able to, what to do when you can't motivate yourself to do a video, I would say this, then don't do a video. Don't do a video. For 99.99999% of people who do YouTube, it's a hobby. Hobby is meant to be fun and relaxing. And so don't build the pressure on yourself that you need to sit, because if you do that, it'll start to lose some of the joy. Do try to stick to a schedule and be as regular as you can, for sure. But guess what? If you've got a day where it's like, you know what I really need today? I need a day where I just go fishing, or I need a day where I just go to the gym, or I need a day where I just sit on my ass with a drink in my hand and watch some TV and just veg out and relax. Then do that. Do that. It's not your career. It's a hobby. Treat it as a hobby. Do the things you need to do to be better at it, like any hobby, but also cut yourself a little bit of thing there. If you don't feel like doing it, then don't do it. Because if you find yourself doing things you don't want to do, guess what? That hobby is going to start feeling pretty sour. And it won't be fun for you anymore. So always try to measure yourself in that. That's my best advice at this point. And again, if you want some more in-depth tips about YouTubing, stuff like that, I recommend those 2 videos that I put up. Go check those out. All right. Let's see. Next up, thank you again for that, Stevie. I appreciate that. And good luck on doing your channel. All right. Dan Webb writes, "Hey, John, I hope you had a happy holidays." I did. Thank you very much. "Did you hear that Rian Johnson is unhappy that Glass Onion has a Knives Out mystery in the title? It's one of my favorites of the year. What did you think?" Yeah, I mean, I haven't read his comments, but I saw the headlines. I saw the headlines that Rian Johnson was like, "I'm really pissed off that they had to put a Knives Out mystery in the title." Who cares? Listen, a title for a movie, I've said this a million times. A title for a movie does not make your movie better or worse in any way. In no way does the title of your movie make your movie any better. The title for your movie is a marketing tool. Just like a trailer, just like a poster, just like a commercial. The title of a movie is nothing but a marketing tool. Okay? That's all it is. And what I would say to Rian Johnson, and of course, Cliff Stevenson, who's on our show every once in a while, he's good buddies with Rian. What I would tell Cliff to tell Rian is calm down, like relax, dude, it doesn't matter. I get it. You'd like your title to be this or that, but guess what? The studio needs your title to attract people to watch it. And the fact of the matter is, you got to put the name of the first movie in it for people to instantly recognize what it is, because the only character that carries over from the first film is Benoit Blanc. That's it. That's the only character that carries over. So if people look at a poster, they're not going to instantly know this is the sequel to Glass Onion. So again, I'm saying all this having not yet actually read Rian Johnson's actual comments, but I would say to him, who cares, man? Who cares? You really do need to have Knives Out in your title. You really do. And the title of the movie does not affect your movie in any way, other than does it attract people to come into the theaters and see it. That's the only value a movie title has. That's it. There is no other value to a movie title. Does your title entice people to come see the movie? That's all that's important, and you got to have Knives Out in the title. Got to have it in there. All right. Next up, we've got Ian S., who just sends in a super chat badge to be supportive. Thank you, Ian S. I appreciate that, man. Trevor sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Trevor, for supporting us on that level. And Trevor writes, my personal top 5. Number 5, The Banshees of Inisherin. Love it. Number 4, Top Gun Maverick. Love it. Number 3, Glass Onion. Love it. Number 2, The Batman. Love it. Number 1, Everything Everyone Wants. Brother, as what does Robert say? You and I park our shuttlecraft in the same shuttle bay. Is that what Rob says? I don't know. He loses me with his Star Trek references. I'll be honest with you. But yeah, I am right there with you, man. I love all those films. By the way, a lot of you have not seen The Banshees of Inisherin yet. I get it. If you're a fan of, Infinity War and Black Adam and stuff like that, Banshees of Inisherin doesn't look like it's the kind of movie for you. Expand your horizons, my friends. Banshees of Inisherin is awesome. Make sure you guys go check it out. Take Trevor's advice and go and check that out. Again, thank you, Trevor, so much for supporting us on that level, man. Appreciate it. All right. Senpaigar writes, Merry Christmas. Looking forward to the new year. Me as well. I hope you had a happy holidays as well, Senpaigar. Good to have you here. Jedediah Elias writes, back and forth between Everything Everywhere All at Once and Fabelmans for my number 1. That was my biggest struggle. Like, obviously I saw Fabelmans very, very late in the year. And when I saw it, I'm like, oh, damn, Everything Everywhere may not be my number 1 film. And I right up until the day we recorded the video, I wasn't 100% sure what I would have as my number 1. At the end of the day, I went with the Fabelmans, and I don't regret it. Like I feel pretty comfortable now that Fabelmans is my number one film of the year. But Everything All at Once is just so freaking good, and it's close, man. It was close. All right. Quality not included rights. Clerks, one of the best trilogies in my opinion. I don't know that I'd say it's one of the best trilogies, man, but for what they are, that is a very special set of movies. And Kevin Smith is kind of the patron saint of anybody can make a movie. Not anybody can make them great, but anybody can make a movie. And Kevin Smith is kind of embodied that, for his whole career. It's kind of his identity, right? That I am one of you. And I just grabbed a camera, got some buddies, we wrote up something, we went and made a movie. The great film instructor, Dove S.S. Simmons, I quote this all the time. But he said, people always ask me, how do I make a movie? And I tell them this. Point a camera at some friends, hit record, say action, and 2 hours later, yell cut and stop recording. You've made a movie. As simple as that sounds, there's a lot of damn wisdom in that. So many people over-romanticize the idea of making a movie. You can make a movie. With the technology today, you can make a movie. Can you make an Oscar-winning movie? Probably not. But you can make a movie. And go watch Fabelmans, man. If you want to get inspired, oh man. So great. So great. All right. Let's see. Jay-Z Gaga writes, Batman, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Whale, The Fabelmans, and Marcel, the Shell with Shoes On. Honorable mentions to Jackass Forever. You know what? I did have a lot of fun with Jackass Forever for reminding us to have fun and laugh again at the movies for 90 minutes. You know what? Well said, Jay-Z. Well said. Because I remember, we were still kind of in the thick of it a little bit, but me and Ray, we went to go see Jackass Forever. It was a little much for Ray. Ray couldn't handle it. But we just sat there and laughed. We just sat there and laughed. And there is a magic in being able to just sit there and laugh. And should that movie win any Academy Awards? Hell no. But it was a fun time at the movies. Fun time at the movies, man. It was really, really good. Anyway, well pointed out, Jay-Z. All right, next up. Matt Sanders also sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Matt, again for supporting us on that level, dude. And Matt writes, some of my favorite films this year. Batman, Avatar 2, Del Toro's Pinocchio. If you can call Werewolf by Night a film, which I don't think you can because it's under an hour. Bullet Train and Elvis. I'm missing some films. I got a lot to catching up to do. This is the thing though, Matt. Like, again, I mentioned in my video, every year we think, okay, this year's been okay for movies. But then you get to the end of the year and you start putting together your best of list. And you're like, damn it, there were a lot of really good films this year. Not a great year for comic book films. I mean, The Batman for me is the only true standout comic book movie. And we're used to having 2 or 3, sometimes 4 in a year that really stand out. The Batman was the only one this year that really stood out. So not a great year for comic book movies, but my God, there was great cinema this year. There was some movies that after Yang, again, that's one I only caught recently. I missed out on it entirely when it first came out. And I'm just watching it and I'm enraptured by the story and the performances. And damn, it was a good year, man. It was a good year for film. Again, not so much at the box office, not so much for comic book movies or anything like that, but it was overall a really, really good year for film. Thank you, Jugglemundo in the live chat. I appreciate that, man, very much. All right. Next up, Sempaigar writes, I'm really looking forward to Transformers Rise of the Beasts. After Bumblebee, I really hope they keep on that track as far as character and story. Yeah, listen, the first Bumblebee movie, the only Bumblebee movie is probably the best of the Transformers movies. I've got a real special place in my heart for the first Transformers movie. Didn't like any of the rest of them until Bumblebee. Bumblebee made character important. The characters were important. They never were in any of the other Transformers movies. And they actually gave it heart. what was the name of the guy, the Kubo and the Two Strings director, something Knight. I forget his name. The guys in the live chat, help me out there. The name of the director of Kubo and the Two Strings who directed Bumblebee. It's something Knight, and I cannot remember. But anyway, Travis Knight. Thank you guys. Stefan, LBK 100, Josh Becker, everybody's right. Travis Knight. Wonderful job directing that movie. Again, he did something none of the other Transformers movies did. He actually gave it heart. And we cared about the characters. And like that opening scene on Cybertron, chef's kiss. Fantastic. Look, I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't have high expectations for Transformer Rise of the Beasts. I'm not gonna lie. I don't. But damn it, that trailer was great. I love the trailer. So I don't know. Hopefully it'll be more like Bumblebee than it was about Transformers The Last Night. Oh, we'll see. We'll find out. All right. Next up. Cosmix writes, watched The Whale last night and it's incredible. It was thought-provoking and Fraser's performance was outstanding. Also, have you seen it yet? I've not seen The Whale yet. But what I've generally heard so far is that the movie's okay, but the performance is world-shattering. Like the performance is world-shaking, is what I heard. So I'm looking forward to watching it. I haven't really had the opportunity to get out and see it yet, but we'll still see. But it looks like Brendan Fraser's definitely getting an Oscar nomination for his performance in this. But we'll see. I'll see how I feel about the whole film. Again, I've talked to a number of people who I really trust who are like, the movie's okay, but Brendan Fraser like brings the house down. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, Cosmix. All right. Daniel Vakura writes, number 1, Top Gun Maverick. Number 2, The Batman. Number 3, Everything Ever All at Once. Number 4, Vesper. Again, that's the one I haven't seen yet. Number 5, Prey. Number 6, Clerks 3. Still need, that's 2 words. Still need to see Decision to Leave, All Quiet on the Western Front, The Whale, The Sun, Holy Spider. I'm not familiar with Holy Spider. I'll be honest with you. I'm not even really, or maybe I'm just not remembering it correctly, but I'm not even familiar with it. It's interesting to see you put Top Gun at number 1. I'm seeing a lot of people put Top Gun in their top 10 list, not a lot at number 1, but it's interesting to see you put it at number 1. Again, it's such a thrilling theatrical experience. I mean, that's just the bottom line. It's just such a thrilling theatrical experience. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Daniel. All right. My Comic Planet writes, my all-time favorite Collider Movie Talk video was the top 5 best comic book movies. It had Chris Stuckman, Christian Harloff, Jeremy Johns, Ken Knapsack, and the great John Campea. What do you remember about making that video, John? I'll be honest with you, I don't remember it. Now, don't get me wrong, I think we did a couple of videos where we had me, we obviously Jeremy was working with us at the time. We had Chris was in town, so we had Chris come in. And obviously Christian was already on staff and stuff like that. I remember we did a couple of things. I don't remember doing the top 5 comic book. I remember us doing the other video. I don't even remember that one. I'm sure it's true. Now you have to remember, I was making like 4 videos a day, every single day back then. So that is what it is. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But I don't remember that one specifically. I think we did one with me, Chris, Jeremy, and I think we did one just talking about the YouTubing in general and about the business of YouTubing. And I think I remember that one a little bit more, but I don't remember the top 5. I'll have to go and check that one out. All right. Thanks for bringing that up, Comic. All right. Josh Becker writes, your live chat seems to think Batman is the only movie that came out this year. They got mad that Rob didn't have it in his list. I mean, I don't think they got mad. I think that people are just surprised. I think people are just surprised. I mean, Batman is definitely, well, it's because Batman has a couple things going for it. Number 1, it's one of the excellent movies of the year that also happens to be a big popular box office film, right? There's not many of those. Like, you can make an argument that there's only 3 of those. That's Top Gun Maverick, Avatar: The Way of Water, and The Batman. I think those are the only 3 truly box office successful popular movies that also were considered amongst the best films of the year. And I think if Rob had left off, I think if Rob or I had left off Avatar: The Way of Water, I think you would have seen the same reaction, because it's one of the super high popular successful films that is also one of the best films of the year. I think if either Rob or I left off Top Gun Maverick, I think you would have seen the same reaction. And if either Rob or I left off The Batman, which Rob did, you saw that reaction. But I think that's more because out of all the other films, I mean, Glass Onion isn't a massive box office hit. After Yang isn't a massive box office hit. Tar isn't a massive box office hit. Not a lot of people saw all those movies. So whether we left maybe that off the list or had it on the list, I don't think it would have caused much of a stir. But if you leave off any of those three massively popular kind of best films of the movie kind of movies, Top Gun, Avatar, or The Batman, you're going to get that kind of reaction from people. Because those are films that everybody's seen, right? Not everybody has seen Triangle of Sadness. Not everybody has seen Everything Everywhere All at Once. Not everybody's seen The Northman, but everybody's seen Avatar, Top Gun, and The Batman. So you leave any of those off and you're going to get that kind of reaction. All right. Next up, Daya writes, I like this format. Hut the best. I like this format. Hut the best format. Probably mean but. Okay. I like this format, but the best format is when you give the list on the live show with the crew and you guys discuss. I don't know that I agree. I mean, because we do that every day. Like we literally do that for 2 hours every day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year. Or, 51 weeks a year, considering we don't do it this way. I think it's important to once in a while. And I'll tell you what, this is one of the things we're going to talk about on our channel members town hall meeting tomorrow, is that going into the new year, we've talked a lot around here about diversifying up our content a little bit, in the sense that not every video we do should be, listen, our bread and butter is the sitting there on set together discussing. That's our bread and butter format. That's our most important format. That's always going to be the cornerstone of what we do, always. But we need to change it up a little bit with some other videos here and there. Hence, you saw us try out the open mic last week, where we were playing Mario Kart as we were doing it, right? And we've got some other things in mind. I think it's important that we change it up again, because to say, well, I like when you guys are sitting around discussing it. Okay, yeah, but we do that 2 hours every day. And here's the other thing too. The other problem with that is that when you just do it live, which is the best, but when you only do it live, it doesn't give you the opportunity to reflect, think about it, come up with something else. Like, really, it's really just all off the seat of our pants. And every once in a while, it's good to do one of these pre-recorded things where we can actually put more thought into it, prepare out exactly what we're going to say. And if we say something we realize was a mistake, we can go back and re-record it. If we later realize, oh, we forgot to mention something, we can go back and record that and put that in. We're then editing it and we can take things out and all that kind of stuff. So while the live discussion format is 100% what our identity is and 100% the most important thing that we do, I also think it's important that we mix it up a little bit here and there to work in some pre-recorded stuff and things like that, just to diversify up the type of content that we have. So again, I have more of that I could tell you about, but I'm going to save that for our channel members on our town hall meeting tomorrow. But yeah, that's why I really thought it was important for us to do it like that. But that's just me. All right. Thanks for your input there, Daya. All right. Next up, a Sith Lord writes, The Eternals, honestly, was a really good movie. The more I watch it, the more I seem to find this movie absolutely breathtaking. You know what? I agree. Eternals, look, there was so much hype going into Eternals. Like, there were some people around Marvel saying this is the best movie we've ever made at Marvel. It's like, oh my God. So expectations got really high. And it just wasn't. But it's good. But I have had, me and Rob were talking about this the other day, the exact same experience you're talking about. Every time we watch that movie, it gets better and better and better. It's a super, super different kind of film than what we're used to watching with Marvel. And I think that caught a lot of people off guard. But I gotta tell you, I went to go see it a couple of times in theaters when it was doing its press run and when it first came out. And then I went about 6 months without seeing it. And then I watched it on a plane. Because, I was on a plane. It's like, I'm going to watch something to kill time. And Eternals was available. So I just popped on Eternals. And I remember going, this is better than I remember. And then I watched it again a few weeks after that. I'm like, you know what? This is actually quite good. This is actually quite good. And Rob had the same. Well, Rob loved Eternals right from the first time he saw it. Like, you guys saw his out of theater reaction. Like, he absolutely loved that movie. Again, I don't think it's like a best film of the year kind of contender sort of movie at all. But you know what? I don't think that movie got the credit it's due. I went back and watched it more. And Awodi in the live chat is saying, I definitely liked it more on the rewatch. It's one of those movies where I am now more and more thinking, you know what? I don't think we gave this movie enough credit. I think it's better than we gave it credit for, but it's different for everybody. All right. Next up we have, that was Sith Lord. Next up we have, Daya again writes, The Fablemans and Avatar are my top two. So good. They're both amazing. They're both so good. Both of those in my top five. Obviously for me, Fablemans was my number one. Absolutely love those films, man. Shake just sends in what it equals to a $20 super chat. I think those are Indian rubles. I think that equals right about $20. Thank you, man, very much. Just for no reason, just to send in to be supportive. Thank you, man, very much. It's incredibly generous of you. All right. Daya also writes in again. Would you say James Cameron is a top 10 director? Hard not to. When you look at all of his movies and his filmography, it's hard not to say he's a top 10. Where on that top 10 list is up for debate, but it's hard not to not admit that he's in a top 10. All right, Kelly Williams writes, I loved Avatar 2, though for me, I thought Sigourney Weaver playing a child was a little jarring. Her voice acting just didn't fit the character, in my opinion. This is how much, and by the way, Kelly sends in a $20 super chat for that. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate that very much. This is how much I disagree with you. I didn't think that was Sigourney Weaver. I went through the whole movie not realizing that was Sigourney Weaver doing the girl's voice. Because afterwards, I remember talking to Rob, no, I thought Sigourney Weaver was doing like voice of one of the characters. Which one? She was her daughter. She did the voice of her own character's daughter. I'm like, no. Like, so again, if for you, it was so obvious that it took you out of it and you found it jarring, that was your experience. I'm just telling you my experience, I'm just being honest with you, was very, very, very different. Actually, somebody just said, who was it? Blanco in the live chat said it exactly. Blanco in the live chat just said, I thought she sounded more like a young Winona Ryder. I did too. So all I can tell you, again, your experience was different than mine. All I can tell you is that my experience was I went through the movie not realizing that was her. So again, it's different for all of us. It's different for all of us. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, man. And again, thank you for supporting us on that level. That's incredibly generous of you. All right. Benjamin Tam writes, can we get a top 5 list for best TV shows of the year? No. My top 5 in order is number 1, Andor, number 2, Severance, number 3, The English, number 4, Wednesday, number 5, The Three Pines. Yeah, we won't be doing a top stuff of television this year because simply, I mean, obviously we talk television around here, but to be honest, we don't follow it nearly enough to do like a legitimate top 5, top 10. Because I'd be like, for example, I didn't watch Better Call Saul. So if I were to put together a top 5 list, all I'm going to do is get people pissed off at me. How dare you not put Better Call Saul on that list? And I'll say, well, yeah, but I didn't see it. Well, then why are you doing a top 5 list if you didn't see it? That's exactly how that conversation would go. That is exactly how that conversation would go. And so that being said, and by the way, they wouldn't be wrong to say that, right? Well, like if you didn't watch like at least half of the best, most important TV shows of the year, why are you bothering doing a top 10? They'd be right. They'd be right. So that's why we probably won't be doing a top 10. By the way, I loved Andor. I loved Severance. I loved Ms. Marvel. I mean, there's a lot of shows on that I love this year, but there's also a lot of big of the pop culture keystone shows that I just simply didn't watch. And therefore, it would kind of be frivolous for me to do a top 5 list. So no, we probably won't be doing that. But I appreciate that you shared your list with us, man. All right. Let's see. CJ Rebirth writes, my top 10, Turning Red, Sonic 2, Marcel the Shell, Wakanda Forever, Elvis, Avatar 2, Do Revenge. I'm not familiar with Do Revenge, to be honest with you. Bad Guy, really Bad Guys, the animated movie, nice. Doctor Strange 2 and Thor 4. Again, a lot of people hate it. A lot of people hate that this is the truth, but let me just see here. Let me just bring this up for a second. Doctor Strange 2 Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. So the reality is, you know, everybody talks about, oh, Doctor Strange 2 sucked. Doctor Strange 2 sucked. Well, guess what the audience rating was? 85%. 85%. That's with over 10,000 verified viewers, like verified. They actually bought tickets and watched this movie. With over 10,000 verified ratings, 85% of the people liked it. I get it. I had problems with it too. And then if we go into Thor, Love, and Thunder, guess what? Oh, Thor, Love, and Thunder sucked. Everybody hates it. Really? 77% of the audience liked it. I only bring that up. I only bring that up because it is a great reminder for us in this bubble. Because let's be honest, you and I, those of us who are obsessed enough about movies that we make shows like the John Campea Show and we watch shows like the John Campea Show, we are in a bubble. And we forget that all the stuff we talk about and the things we focus on and all that kind of stuff is not necessarily what the vast majority of the average movie-going audience focuses on or thinks. And I think things like Doctor Strange 2, which I did not love, and Thor, Love, and Thunder, which I did not love, that in our bubble, we keep hearing this echo chamber of, oh, everybody hates these movies. These movies suck and all. Okay, that's fine for us to individually think, but it's a good reminder for us that what we think in this echo chamber, in this bubble that you and I and we are all in, and I love our bubble, by the way. I love our bubble. It's a cozy, comfortable bubble. I love it. But it's good for us to remind ourselves once in a while about the bigger world and the vast majority of people who watch movies, the average moviegoer, they like these films. And so I can talk and talk and talk all I want, and you can talk and talk and talk all you want about how much this sucked and nobody liked this. Really? Nobody liked it, huh? Nobody? Because that Thor, Love, and Thunder had a 77% audience rating, and Doctor Strange 2, 85. That means out of all the average moviegoers, only 15% of them walked out of Doctor Strange 2 saying they didn't like it. Again, that's not to say that I'm right or wrong if I didn't like it, or that you're wrong if you didn't like it. I'm just saying this is valuable for us to remind ourselves once in a while that sometimes what we think in this delightful little bubble that we are in is not necessarily the same mindset of the vast majority of people who go see the movies. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And I think it's good that we remind ourselves of that every once in a while. So, hey, man, I'm glad you had Doctor Strange 2 and Thor, Love, and Thunder on your list. I'm glad that you did. Okay, let's keep going here. Next up, Jedediah Elias writes, growing up with an abusive dad, I can't even imagine. The Black Phone was by far one of my favorite movies of the entire year. Every performance and direction was incredible. First of all, there are things that happen in movies, and this is the power of the art, where you go, oh man, that must be incredible, or that must be horrifying, or that must be amazing, or that must be terrible, right? I can never imagine. I can't imagine having an abusive dad. because my life experience was different. And I think a lot of us, we often, I think it's a normal human experience that we take for granted the things we have. And I think that is true of us when we think of our fathers. I think a lot of us take for granted that the majority of us have fathers that love us and fathers that want to do right by us, and have fathers who, whatever their flaws are, because they're just normal men, did their best. And all of their mistakes that they make parenting us, none of them came from not wanting to do right by us. I have a dad who modeled for me what it meant to be a man. Yeah, I grew up, even though my mom was Canadian and I grew up in Canada, my dad is very traditional Italian. And my dad modeled for me what it meant to be a man. And the value and the importance of always putting family first, and the value of the value of hard work. I watched my dad work hard my entire life. And I watched my dad try to instill those values in me. Sometimes the values didn't instill so great. Like my dad got me working road construction as soon as we could. I mean, that was the family business, man. When my grandfather came over on the boat from Italy and brought my teenage father along with him, my father worked road construction. My dad worked his way up in City Hall to be like the head of the engineers and stuff like that. But me and my brother, both, the summers would come, you'd be putting a pick in my hand, a shovel in my hand, and throwing me out on the road crews and working road crews. Because my brother did follow in my dad's footsteps, by the way, and he's great at his job. But like my dad wanted to install in us work and ethics and family first and all that kind of stuff. And I think because of that, I take for granted what a good father is. I think I take that for granted. I think all of us do. And so when I hear from somebody like yourself, Jedediah, who writes in and says, hey, growing up with an abusive dad, I'm like, to me, that shatters my concept of the world. Because I can't understand. I can't relate. I just take it so for granted that I had a dad who made mistakes, but always made mistakes out of loving us and wanting to do right by us and trying to instill values into us. He always meant well. My dad always meant well, even when he made mistakes. And my dad made mistakes. But even when my dad made mistakes, he meant well. And I always knew that. And I always knew, even in the midst of the times when I thought my dad was being the most bullheaded and stubborn and whatever, I always knew it was coming from a place that he loved me. I never doubted my dad loved me. Why am I getting emotional? I don't know. I never doubted for one moment in my life that my dad loved me. And I can't even imagine growing up. It's just so outside of my experience. I can't even imagine the type of toughness and fortitude people like yourself must have to grow up in a house where you didn't have what I took for granted. And so I can only imagine watching a movie like Black Phone, and having been through something like that, and it must make you appreciate it even more. Anyway, Jedediah, thank you so much for sharing that part of your story with us and reminding us about how powerful these movies can be for people who have had, to me, it was one of the best movies of the year anyway. But yeah, thanks for sharing that, man. Sorry for getting sidetracked, guys. Let's talk about football. No, sorry for getting sidetracked on there. Sorry for getting sidetracked. But yeah, that's a powerful thing. Again, the power of the movies, man. That's the power of the movies. That's why I don't think just movies are cool. Movies are important. Movies matter. And the fact that these stories can create these, anyway, that's great. Thank you for sharing that, Jedediah. I appreciate it, man. Okay, let's go on here. Jimmy Rudolphson writes, Hey, John, do you think Wakanda Forever is a bit of a failure at the box office? No. Anyway, sorry. Do you think Wakanda Forever is a bit of a failure at the box office? So far, it has not made $1 billion. Okay, hold on a second. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever box office. Okay. Let's look at this for a second, okay? How many movies in the past 2 years have made over $800 million? How many movies do you think this year have made over $800 million? I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it's not a lot. Not a lot of movies have made over $800 million at the box office, okay? This movie has made $800 million. Now, you can then say, so it's made money, it's a success, good for all. Now, you can say, but John, the first one made well over $1 billion. First of all, the $1 billion mark should never be considered the litmus test for success. The $1 billion club is still an extreme, when you consider the tens and tens and tens of thousands of films that have come out, the $1 billion club is still a very, very exclusive club. But here's the main point I want to make. Let me look this up for a quick second. Iron Man 2. Okay. So Iron Man 2 made a lot more money than the first Iron Man did, because the first Iron Man movie made $585 million. Iron Man 2 made $623 million. And then I think Iron Man 3 joined the $1 billion club, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Iron Man 3 made $1.2 billion. Okay? Let me ask you this question. Let me ask this theoretical question. And by the way, Jimmy, I'm just giving you shit, man. I'm just busting your balls here. You are my film loving brother. We're just having fun here, okay? So, but let me ask you this question. How much money do you think Iron Man 3, which made $1.2 billion, how much money would Iron Man 3 have made if it didn't have Robert Downey Jr. in it and it didn't have Tony Stark as the main character? You had Iron Man 1 with Tony Stark as the main character, Robert Downey Jr. playing him. Then you had Iron Man 2 with Tony Stark as the main character and Robert Downey Jr. playing him. Now answer me this question. How much money do you think Iron Man 3 would have made $1.2 billion if all of a sudden in Iron Man 3, Tony Stark wasn't the main character and Robert Downey Jr., the star of the series, wasn't there anymore? How much money do you think that movie would have made? I'll tell you what it is. A hell of a lot less than $1.2 billion. A hell of a lot less than $1.2 billion. I don't even think it makes as much money as the previous one did, which was like $600 and something million. But if all of a sudden you have this thriving, successful franchise built around this iconic character with an iconic performance by your lead, and all of a sudden you take Robert Downey Jr. out and say Tony Stark is no longer Iron Man, Happy Hogan is Iron Man now, Jon Favreau in that Iron Man suit, Happy Hogan's the new Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., how much money does that movie make? Nothing. That movie makes nothing. Now, that is one of the reasons why going into Black Panther Wakanda Forever, I've said for over a year, this movie will not make what the original movie made. I've said it for over a year, and I always said for those two reasons. I said, you're going into a sequel that, number one, does not have its star. The main star of this franchise is no longer there. And number two, since they decided not to recast him, you've got a franchise where the character that the franchise is built around isn't there anymore. T'Challa is no longer in the Black Panther franchise. That's like trying to make a new Iron Man movie when Tony Stark isn't in the movie anymore. So, I mean, I said forever that this movie was not going to make the money that the first one. I've been saying it all year. Nobody wanted to believe me. I say it all year. The fact that this movie, that Black Panther Wakanda Forever, can still cross the $800 million mark without the character of T'Challa and without the main star, Chadwick Boseman, is incredible. I think it's incredible. I think they have to look at that and say, yeah, we did well. We did well. Because again, let me ask you this. How much do you think the new Deadpool movie will make if Ryan Reynolds isn't in it and they say Wade Wilson isn't Deadpool anymore? How much money do you think the next Deadpool is going to make? How much money do you think Logan would have made if they said, yeah, Logan isn't actually Logan anymore. Now it's a different mutant and Hugh Jackman isn't in it. How much money do you think that would have made? How much money do you think Thor Ragnarok would have made? And they said, okay, yeah, Thor Odin's son isn't Thor anymore, and Heimdall's Thor, and Chris Hemsworth isn't in the franchise anymore. You cannot underestimate. You cannot underestimate how massive of an impact both, any one of those things, either the main star is gone, that's huge in and of itself. That is a massive impact in and of itself. The main star isn't in the movie anymore. Secondly, the main character is no longer the main character of this franchise. That is huge in and of itself. Look what happened when they tried to do a Bourne movie without Matt Damon as Jason Bourne. How did that do? By the way, what was the name of the one? What was the name of the one where Hawkeye was the lead character in the Bourne universe? I can't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head. Bourne Legacy. Thank you. I'm going to look this up here. Maybe I'm wrong. But Bourne Legacy made $276 million at the box office. Made $276 million at the box office. That's what happened when you try to do a Bourne movie without Jason Bourne and without the star Matt Damon. So do I think that Black Panther Wakanda Forever making over $800 million without its title character and without its main star is a failure? No. Black Adam didn't even make $400 million. So no, I say thee nay, my friend Jimmy. I say thee nay. It is not. Listen, you got to do some pretty creative somersaults to try to create some kind of scenario where somebody would say, well, Black Panther Wakanda Forever was a failure. It only made $800 million. I mean, come on. All right. We need to move on here. But thank you for the question, Jimmy. And by the way, you're not the only person bringing that up, but I'm glad you brought the question up because I've been wanting to raise that point. That the fact is, look at any movie franchise, take out the title character and take out the main star. How much money does that sequel make? Anybody? Bueller? No, we see Bourne Legacy is a great example. Anyway, there's that. Okay, sorry, spent way too much time on that. Let's move on. Wiley Todd writes, hey, John, did you ever get a chance to see Cha-Cha Real Smooth? I did not. It's my second favorite movie of the year for many reasons. I think it's extremely underseen. Well, we've seen today, Wiley Todd, that a number of people have actually brought that one up and had that one on their list. So, I mean, clearly it's one I'm probably going to have to get caught up on, but that is one of the ones that I did not get a chance to see. Thank you for bringing it up, Wiley. All right. Thunder Force 2000 writes, I just saw the finale for His Dark Materials. Great end of the show, but extremely depressing, especially for a YA show. You know what? I couldn't finish it. I couldn't finish it. I was quite excited for it. And then I watched the first bit of it. I think I got 3 episodes in and I'm just like, I tapped out. I didn't think it sucked. It wasn't keeping me. And again, that's not me begging on the show. If other people watched it and loved it, that's great. I'm not saying it sucked. I'm just saying, hey, this isn't working for me. So I kind of ditched on it, unfortunately. But that was my experience. I'm glad you enjoyed it, though, man. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. All right. ES writes, The Stranger and The Menu were two of the best films in 2022. The social commentary in The Menu is a criticism for snob and superficial behavior that is embedded in today's culture. Yes, ES, but it's also the opposite, right? The movie itself is, yes, on the one side of the coin, is a criticism of elitism and a criticism of the modern expression of elitism and snobbishness and also influence. And it was a criticism of all that. It absolutely was. But when you flip the coin over on The Menu, this is why I thought it was one of the best movies of the year. It was also a criticism about some of the standard ways we look at elitism and the ways we criticize and the ways we attack elitism and all that kind of stuff, right? It was two sides of the coin. It was going after both ends because you had the patrons and looking at them and what they are, the elitism, and it was a total criticism of that. But when you go back and you look at Rafe, the way Ralph Fiennes approached and it became a larger commentary, I think, about also the way we respond to that stuff. I think it was criticizing both sides, and I thought it was quite insightful the way it did that. And that's one of the reasons why I like the movie so much. Thanks for bringing that up, man. All right. Sith Lord writes, Smile was a beast of a horror movie. I went home uneasy and shaken, and that hasn't happened to me in a while, but with these recent horror movies, I did not like... I'm going to be honest with you, Sith Lord. I did not like Smile as much as some people did. I enjoyed it. I did find it very predictable. Like the ending of the film, I telegraphed 5 miles away. I think probably most of you did. It definitely had its moments, and I enjoyed it. In a thumbs up or thumbs down world, for me, Smile is a thumbs up. I'm on the same side as you. It's a thumbs up movie. I didn't think about it anymore after I watched it, though. And I remember my wife, Ann, didn't enjoy the movie. She didn't like it. Incredible concept. But I think that was one of those movies where they had this great concept and the premise is great, right? But I feel like they didn't quite know what to do with this great concept they came up with. Again, I'm not bashing on the movie. I like it. It's a thumbs up for me. It just didn't make the same impact for me that I did on a lot of people like yourself, like it did. All right. Next up, Adam Ruiz writes, was finally able to finish Harley Quinn season 3. Nice. Damn, I loved it. I cannot wait for season 4. Feels weird seeing a wholesome Joker. I tell you what, this show from the very beginning, which I poo-pooed, I fully admit, I poo-pooed and I crapped all over the whole idea of Harley Quinn. You know, I think neither Marvel or DC makes very good animated stuff for home viewing. And I thought it looked stupid. I thought the trailers were dumb. And then so many of you guys said, John, you're going to love Harley Quinn. You need to watch it. So I tried it, fell in love with it. I have loved this show. That whole Joker turn has been great. And the way they set up too with Harley and Ivy getting back into town and Joker is now was he in the mayor by the end? Anyway, the season was fantastic. The Eyes Wide Shut orgy episode was freaking hilarious. This show is never afraid to push the envelope, be very raunchy. I loved it. I loved season 3. I loved everything about the Harley Quinn show. I don't think there's been a single episode that I watched that I didn't laugh my damn ass off. I love this show so much, and I also cannot wait for season 4. All right, and our final question today comes to us from Angela Dashner, who sends in a $100 super chat. Angela has been one of our longtime viewers and one of our biggest supporters. Angela, thank you so much for that on this Christmas season, saying that, and I appreciate that very much. And Angela writes, thanks, John, for another great year. Listen to you every day as I have been training for a triathlon. Oh, holy crap, really? Okay. So haven't been able to send in my support. You send in plenty, Angela. My favorite film of the year was Top Gun Maverick. Well, first of all, training for a triathlon is no joke. That is no joke. You know, I train to get to McDonald's. That's about it. No, That's not true. But a triathlon is something I would never, even in the peak of my physical shape, I'd never be able to do triathlon. The fact that you are training for a triathlon, that is big props to you. Huge props to you. Secondly, Top Gun. Again, we've talked about Top Gun so much today. It is what, like Harley Quinn, it was one of those movies before I went to that CinemaCon 2 years ago that I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, what can you even do with Top Gun today? It's an outdated concept for even a movie. It's a trailer, or it's a movie, it's a sequel that's like several decades too late. Like, it is decades late. I had no faith in it. And then 2 years ago, they showed us the first 18 minutes at CinemaCon. And I'm like, wait, what? If this is what this whole movie is going to be like, we're in for something special. And then, of course, last year at CinemaCon, they showed us the whole movie, and I was blown away. Absolutely blown away by it, and absolutely loved it. So you're not alone, Angela. You're not alone. And again, Angela, thank you so much for being a longtime viewer and such a great supporter of our show. Thank you so much. And best of luck on your training for your triathlon. Color me impressed. Doing a triathlon, no easy thing. All right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of our sort of the John Campea Show. Again, we're not doing regular shows this week. Don't forget, guys, tomorrow will be our final show for the week, because I'm going to take Thursday and Friday off. And again, tomorrow we're going to focus on the most anticipated movies of 2023. Yesterday we did the worst movies of the year. Today we covered our best movies of the year. Tomorrow we're talking about the year to come, the movies we're looking forward to the most in 2023. I hope you guys will come and join us for that. So, guys, to all of you who sent in those super chats, especially you, Angela, but all of you guys who sent in those super chats to support our show, thank you so very much. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported this show as you did it. So until next time, guys, my name's John Campea. Until tomorrow, my friends, bye-bye.